Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Carter, Kings, and Race. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this Tuesday evening. There's definitely no competitions on this evening, which is why we're not watching any other football this evening, because there's no teams playing this evening at all. No, nobody. None of our interest anyway. It's definitely not Champions League football on this evening. But in saying that, what we're going to do today is a little bit of a special kind of a stream. So as the season is winding down and we now have a new regime that's due to come in, thoughts are on we're kind of trying to look ahead to the future, essentially, and thoughts are on what are we going to do? Are we going to keep some people? Are we going to sell some people? Maybe we loan them out, and what way will we go about it? So what we've decided to do is we've gone onto the Liverpool website itself and looked at the squad, and we're going to go through each player individually, and we'll try and speed through it and get through, because there is a fairly large squad. And we'll just give a quick thoughts on keep, loan, or sell, and maybe a reason behind that decision as well. So what we'll do is we might do it by positions. So we'll go goalkeepers, then we'll go defenders, then we'll go midfielders, and then we'll go forwards, and then we'll discuss the loanees and who we'd like to bring back, send out again on loan, or just sell at this point. So we'll try and get through it as quickly as possible. Otherwise, we could be here for fucking hours. But with that being said, before we get into it, please do make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure your notification bell is on for all future videos as well, so that you never miss out. And yeah, that's basically all I have. But what we're going to do is will I share the screen? No, I won't share it. I'll just go over and I'll question. So Kings, I'll start off with yourself on this one. So we have the goalkeepers that are there. So we have Alisson, Adrian, and Caoimhín Kelleher. For each one of them, keep, loan, or sell, and you can also include Pitaluga in that as well. So for each individual one of them, keep, loan, or sell, and your thoughts behind the decision.
Right, okay. Alisson, definitely keep. He's top notch. Why would you want to get rid of him? Simple answer. Kelleher, definitely keep if he'll stay, because he's had a lot of games, obviously, in this season. If he will stay as number 2, definitely keep him. I think he's very, very good. The other 2, I don't know Petaluga that well, but Adrian, let him go. Get somebody else. He's never going to play anyway, is he? He's happy to sit there as a third choice, but he's picking up a hefty wedge, I'm assuming. So you can sell both of the other 2. I'm not too bothered. They'd have to just bring somebody in, obviously, as a reserve third choice, and then hopefully not pay them too much money either. But the other 2, without doubt, I'd keep them. There'd be no questions.
Yeah, that's the way that I would look at it as well. You also have Pitaluga. I'm going to see him on Monday. He's playing in my town on Monday for St. Patrick's Athletic, so I'll be going to see him. Hopefully he's playing. But it is one of them that we're not going to open that can of worms on this stream. Let's not fucking start that. But there is a couple of things that we will get into later on. I've said, so if you have a comment in and there's a question there, please do stick around. I've saved a few of them. So I have one there from John Summers who's been saved as well. Yes, my name is now Dean. Dean was meant to be hosting this evening, but unfortunately had to be called away. So sadly, you get to look at my ugly face. Race, same question as to Kings. You have Alisson, Caoimhín Kelleher, you then have Pitaluga, and then you also have Adrian. For each one of them individually, you have keep, loan, or sell. Out of the goalkeepers that I've mentioned there, who are you keeping, who are you loaning, and who are you selling?
Well, obviously keep Alisson around. No question there. Kelleher, he's kind of the interesting one. If you can keep him around, if you can convince him to stay, by all means do it. But if he wishes to play somewhere else and get some more regular football, then I don't think the club will stand in his way. Or even if he does want to stay and you want to kind of gauge the market and see if there's any interest in getting a fee, because he's, you'd think that a number 1 goalkeeper at his age, he's proven talent already in the Premier League. Like, if you have a good fee there, you can definitely capitalize on that, and certainly how we do our business and getting value for players, especially a player that isn't going to see the field a lot. So it's kind of a back and forth there, but certainly try to keep him. Adrian, you can get out, you can leave. I don't think he's really needed anymore. Just kind of a charity spot he has on our team with the role he has with us. And then the other young guy, I forget his name already. Say his name again.
Pitaluga.
Yeah, you keep him around. Obviously, probably a loan candidate. If we do sell Kelleher, then you and Adrian, if he doesn't come back, then you got to consider who's going to be your backup goalkeeper, and that may be going out and getting another veteran out there and an older keeper, because these younger guys probably aren't good enough yet to be that number 2. So, yeah, that's fairly straightforward for the goalkeepers here.
Yeah, it really is. David De Gea is still a free agent, if anybody's wondering. Carter, it does seem to be a very simple question. Alisson seems to be the keep. Kelleher seems to be the keep. If you are going to, if he wants to stay, you don't obviously have Paul mentioned in here that it'll be hard to keep Kelleher if a reasonable offer comes in. We will need to increase his salary, but not what he will be offered as a number 1 elsewhere. Not fair to the lad. He does have an argument there, but if you would want to keep Kelleher, or do you think he should go? But to be fair, Alisson is a given. He's keep. It's the other 3 that remain behind him. So Kelleher, Adrian, and Pitaluga. What would your opinion be on keep, sell, or loan?
I think Kelleher, I would make him sign a contract this year. If he doesn't sign a contract this year, out the door. I think it's too much of a risk to let him go for free, especially when you look at like Raya went for like £30 million on a year left in his deal. So I think keep him, maybe gentleman's agreement, he can leave at a certain fee. And then Adrian, as the guys have said, thank you for the contribution. Like, I won't forget the UEFA Super Cup and the 13 games in the league, but he's on £60,000 a week, and that's a bit much. If he wants, honestly, £15,000 a week, I'd keep him on. Like, he is a foreign player spot, but I think he does seem to like have an important like entertainment, like good for the squad harmony, and sometimes you need guys like that, especially if other older players are leaving. But I think maybe max I keep him at like £20,000 a week, if not let him go. And Pitaluga, I think you've got to go out and play. Like, he's not from what I sort of see on Twitter, he's not setting the world alight, but he's not doing badly. And I think he's not going to be ready, and there's no point having him playing under 21s or having him as the 3rd choice. So I think he needs to go on loan.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you on that. To be perfectly honest with you, it is one of them. Kelleher just needs to be handed Adrian's salary, and I can guarantee he'll sit around as a number 2 that way. And you save yourself $500,000 a year by taking him off that, selling, getting rid of Adrian, and bumping him up to that salary. Pinching pennies, like, but better to save 500 grand and pay him that 3 million a year or thereabouts than go and spend 30 million on another backup. Like, it just makes much more sense. And obviously Paul is of the same opinion of that.
Can I just say, Stephen, right? When Carter says that he's on 60 grand a week or whatever, it's madness to think. They say, oh, do you think he'd take 15, 20 grand a week? 20 grand a week to sit and do nothing. 20 grand a week. It's outrageous, really, when the average working man don't get anywhere near anything like that, do they? And it's like 20 grand a week to be 3rd choice. And also on the other point of De Gea, do you think he would come in and be 3rd choice cleaning Kelleher's boots? I don't know if he'd do that, would he?
Well, it's not so much it's if Kelleher goes, him to come in and be the 2nd choice behind
Alisson. Yeah. Okay. Do you think he'd clean Alisson's boots?
That'd be more my thinking of it. If Kelleher was to go, you have a free agent sat there in De Gea that immediately comes into a title contender and will get game time and the likes. And I'm as much as we do joke on United's keepers, Kelleher, De Gea was a fantastic shot.
He's better than Onana. I would have.
Without a question,
I'm sure they'd have kept him. If they realised.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, he's a way better shot stopper than Onana, which is why everybody was like, "You're idiots for letting De Gea go." Fair enough, he can't do. He's not great with his feet, but like at the same time, it's a shot stopper that he got. He literally won the Golden Glove, and your defense is the exact same as it was last year. So which is it? Was it the keeper or was it the defense? You're completing 50 shots a game this season. So which one was it?
Yeah, this is it.
We're going to move on to the defenders. Mihai's obviously his dream job is to be Liverpool's 3rd choice goalkeeper. Probably too short for it. I don't know about that. Now you can jump. You're all right. We're going to look at the defenders. Now, I'm going to name out the defenders, and I'll go, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 10 of them. So we know the main ones. We have Joe Gomez, Virgil van Dijk, Ibrahima Konate, Kostas Tsimikas, Andy Robertson, Joel Matip, Reece Williams, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Jarell Quansah, and Connor Bradley. Of those names, Carter, I'll come to you first on this. Of those defender names that I named out, what's your thoughts on keep, loan, and sell for those 10 players?
In my opinion, the only untouchable ones I'd say are Trent and Van Dijk. I think anyone else for a good fee, I would be interested. I wouldn't want to sell everyone. Like I'd still like to keep Beck and keep Bradley and maybe keep Gomez. But as you're seeing, we're linked with a lot of defenders. And if we got a good fee for Joe Gomez, would it be the worst thing? Like, he's been very useful, but I could definitely see Edwards and Hughes being people that are like, well, we can sell Joe Gomez and get 2 very adequate replacements. I think Matip, I'd let him walk. Reece Williams, he just needs to go and play somewhere. Konate, very good. But if a good offer came in, we can get someone who's more like reliable. Quansah, I think, is good. Do I think he's starting centre-back for a league title? Maybe not. Is he a good third or fourth? Maybe, but I don't think I'd want someone who's like top, like the best 18-year-old, 19-year-old centre-half in the world, like Lenny Yoro or someone like that, or Diomande. I think they're a bit ahead of Quansah. And I think Andy Robertson and Tsimikas, I think, good offers. It's time to cash in.
No, that's fair. I don't mind that. To be honest with you, I think Quansah isn't there yet. However, it speaks volumes of his quality when he stepped in, and we haven't necessarily missed either one of our 2 starting centre-backs, whether he stepped in for Virgil van Dijk or he stepped in for Konate. He's filled that role phenomenally. And for a kid of 21, 22 years old, I think the sky's the limit for him. I think you're correct in saying he's not there yet. However, another full off season, and like if you think about it, that guy was playing League One last year. He was playing with Bristol Rovers. So to make that leap and come 2 leagues up and start for a Premier League fighting team for most of the year, along with playing in 4 different competitions, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, Europa League, and Premier League, that's a hilariously massive step up. And I know what you mean about Lenny Yoro as well. Like, him and Inacio would have been my dream choices at the centre-back role. But Lenny Yoro is going to go for near £90 million. Like, there's no hope we're going to touch that for that young of a kid, even though he does have the potential to be absolutely monstrous. But it is one of them realistically. But yeah, I don't see any disagreements there myself. I think the only untouchables would be, I put Quansah in there myself, but that's just personal preference on that. Trent and Virgil van Dijk are the only untouchables. Everybody else can kind of get it at that point. But I think depth is never a bad thing, and the likes of having a Beck and a Chambers and a Calvin Ramsey and Connor Bradley in those fullback positions is never a bad thing. But I think some of them would require another year or 2 of a loan out to a competitive side to actually be able to step up then and come in. Like, Connor Bradley's a gem. He was also playing League One last year with, I think it was Bolton he was with. So there's that side of it too. But Race, I'll move on to yourself as well. I list them out again. So we have Connor Bradley, Jarell Quansah, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Reece Williams, Joel Matip, Andy Robertson, Kostas Tsimikas, Konate, Virgil van Dijk, and Joe Gomez. You can also add in the likes of Owen Beck, Chambers, who am I missing that I mentioned previously? Calvin Ramsey, Sepp van den Berg as well, that have one that I didn't mention, Carter. Thank you for reminding me on that he could play a very big role considering how he's doing over in Germany currently at the moment. Out of those names that I kind of listed there, the 10 to 13 names that are there, who would you feel would be for the keep category, the loan category, and the sell category?
A lot of names there. As far as untouchables or people that I wouldn't be looking to sell, Van Dijk, Trent, Konate, I would put Joe Gomez in there too, based on he's had a really good season, and I just think he's a really versatile option to have. Being able to play basically across the whole back line as well. I think that is a very important thing to have in a squad. A player to come in and put in a shift like that. I know he's struggled in the past, and this could be just recency bias, but I think there is still a role for him, and I would like to keep him around. I think he has a lot of value for our squad. I don't know what type of fee he would command, but I'd like to keep him around personally. Who else we got here? Joel Matip. I think he can leave. I think he's shown injury prone. Even though he's been, a good player for us, I think just in terms of relying on him, I think like Kwanzaa coming up this season and Matip, getting injured, I think there's your clear switch in not dynamic there, your power rankings. So I think Kwanzaa's jumped him, and I wouldn't mind seeing him departing. Of course, Kwanzaa too is in the untouchable range as well. I'd keep him. I think, he's it's his first year playing, Premier League football. And I think he's got a lot of room to grow within his own body as well, kind of bulk up, strength as well. He looks a little light out there, but he's still, I don't know who mentioned it, but he's kind of had that Van Dijk track back where he's kind of shimmying him a little bit with his shoulders, and he's got that in him. There's potential there, definitely. So I think we're all excited to see him and what he can do. He's still got another level to go up. Let's see who else we got here. The left back spot, Kostas and Robertson. With Kostas, it's I wonder if he's if he's wondering, because he's 27 years old, he's been with us for a few years now. Is he looking to play more? I mean, he's got a good run in with us, especially this season with Robertson being injured. But is he trying to, almost trying to surpass Robertson? Because Robertson, I think, has been looked a little shaky at times this season. And do we need someone a little more defensive, or someone who's not just kind of bombing forward and doing, whatever? Of course, Robertson still has a good left foot, when needed sometimes. But that's a tough one. It could be a case where, a new manager, a new system comes in place, and do we really need, especially if you keep Joe Gomez around? I mean, there's your reserve left back, and then you don't really need a second one as well, depending on how we play and whatnot. It's tough. And then Robertson, Robertson's one I'm just keeping my eye on, just in case there is a dip in form, or a real drastic, wow, what's happening? He's just unreliable week in, week out. And there really is a true rotation between Tsimikas and Robertson. So that's up to the next regime to decide, is this a guy we can rely on? Do we need to bring in someone else? We're going to get rid of both Robertson and Tsimikas and bring in a new left back. That's a possibility. And I'm kind of on the fence here. It's, keeping and they're selling. I don't know. It's a tough one there. When it comes down to it, I would say keep Robertson for now. Just he is kind of a leader for us, and try to give him a new, give him another year and see what happens. Tsimikas, if you can get a little price for him, I guess I wouldn't mind selling him either. Especially again, if you keep Joe Gomez, there's your backup and whatnot. Who else am I missing here? Connor Bradley, of course, I would keep him around. I know it'd be tough, if you do want to loan him out, because, he did hit a bit of a wall once Trent came back. And I think that's kind of that wall that every young player hits. And so you could say, oh, maybe he needs a little more regular game time at a higher level, not going back to the championship. Maybe it's, somewhere else. I know loan players are kind of tough to project, but Trent, if we do move him up into midfield, and then you could have Connor Bradley there, that's an option as well. Who knows if that's the case. Who else am I missing here? I've covered a bunch of them. I know Vandenberg. I'm just curious what he could provide, or what the plans are for him, because he's been loaned out 3 times now, I think it is.
Yeah,
third year.
I think he's really kicked on this year properly.
Yeah.
He's a rapid, big centre back too. He could very easily fit into the type of centre back that Slot wants. He wants a big physical presence that's just a wall essentially to shore up the.
And he's Dutch too, so who knows? Maybe he likes that as well. It's, I don't know. I'm curious to see Sepp really. I don't know. I'm always weary of someone who's been loaned out a few times and just is kind of on the back burner, kind of an afterthought for now. So maybe a new manager though comes in and sees it differently. So that could honestly be a good thing for him in terms of his prospects at Liverpool. Is that what he needs? Because maybe Klopp just was like, all right, I'm going to keep loaning you out and see what you can do over there. Yeah. So I think I covered pretty much everyone there. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I'm not of the belief of a lot of movement in that room. I think more additions are to come this season, in terms of our first teamers. So you know, I think we definitely need some more depth, but I think we do have some really good options to pull from.
Yeah, it's one of them that realistically, like I done out a depth chart and I fired it into the group chat, and I realistically think the only places in the back line that we need shoring up in is a left-footed centre back, a centre back, and a left back, because realistically the depth over on that sort of side of the pitch is quite shallow. And I think it will be needed. We have now, Kings. We have people in here just mentioning obviously break the bank for Davies from Bayern for a left back. We then have Paul saying if Matip regains his fitness, give him another year on a reduced wage. Might not be the worst thing in the world. Costa's not being good enough defensively. You have Emily Roberts saying here release or sell Adrian, Nat Phillips, Ario Williams, Sepp Vandenberg, Carvalho, Thiago. That one that you won't like, that one, Carter, and Tyler Morton. That kind of, so out of those defenders, I listed them again for you. Joe Gomez, Virgil van Dijk, Ibrahim Konate, Costa Simicas, Andy Robertson, Joel Matip, Reece Williams, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Jarell Kwanzaa, Connor Bradley, and then you have obviously the loanees that are out at the minute: Calvin Ramsey, Owen Beck, and Luke Chambers as well. You have a plethora of young talent that seems to be there that could break through into the squad. What would be your opinions on keep, loan, and sell? Who's your untouchables that you would definitely want to keep, and who would you be willing to let go on a loan?
I think at this point, Virgil's obviously captain. He's not going anywhere, is he? He's like, no, neither should he. Trent as well, and Jarell Kwanzaa. I definitely keep them. Bradley, yes, I would keep him and not loan him out. I think he's proved enough when he is in full flight. He can cope. He's good. And then you can interchange Trent. And again, I don't know how Slot, when he's confirmed, he's going to say, right, this is how I want to play. But you've got Trent and you've got Bradley on the right. I think we're okay there. And if we were really stuck, you can move Joe Gomez there. Fine. So there's three really in one position. And then you've got, on the other side on the left, you've got Robbo, Gomez again, and Simicas. And I would let Simicas go, no problem. Robbo, I'll give him another 12 months, purely for the reason, like Card said, he's got a hell of a left foot on him. And another good pre-season under his belt, I'm sure he'll be okay. Now, in saying that, I don't want him to be just okay, but I think he's very experienced. So I think, well, while we've got him, could we then blood another youngster in different games, less so-called lesser games, so that as and when he gets near the end of the season, we can say, right, a bit like Bradley had to come in and he had to step up. But instead of just throwing him in and going, just do it, it's kind of like give him a chance here and there during the season. And then near the end, you can say, right, you can have a run of games now, etc. And by then, it's almost like a natural progression. The Robbo can be phased out. That's what I would do there. Gomez, so in that respect, I would keep Gomez as well. Matip, unfortunately for him, he got injured and his contract's coming to an end. And the manager that likes him so much is leaving. So it's all gone against him that he's not going to get kept on, is he? He's going to get let go, I think. Nat Phillips, fair play to the guy when he was thrown in at the deep end when we had Henderson and Fabinho at the back. He did his best. He's never going to be quite up to the quality that we need. So he's going to have to be moved on. Same for Williams. Konate is a bit of a conundrum, to be honest, because he's a good defender, but he gets injured quite a lot. So from my point of view, I'd be thinking he's got to go, to be honest. Let him go out somewhere else. I think you said, was it Luke Chambers as well, is it? Talented left back. Now, I just think, again, he could be the one that I say, with Robbo, can be like eased in over during the season just to see if he's actually got what it takes. The other youngsters, I'd give them a chance in pre-season for the manager to have a look at them and then see if they say, again, like Carter said, instead of going out to League One, could they go to a championship side instead? So they're taking a step up themselves before they maybe are thrown in at the deep end. Clubs like, say, Preston, where I think Sepp Vandenberg went, funny enough. He played about 60-odd games there, and now he's gone on. He's gradually building up. I'd bring him back in, and I'd keep him, I think, this time. I would, again, like working with as again Carter said, Netherlands youth international. So he can learn from Van Dijk at international and club level at that point then, and he's got vast experience, obviously Van Dijk. So you think, well, could he come in now and be like, well, listen, I've been out enough. I'm going to learn from like my captain now and see if he can cut it at the club he was signed for originally. But yeah, most of them pick themselves really, I think. But yeah, Kanate, Tsimikas, Williams, Phillips, Matip can all go definitely. Some of the youngsters stay in behind the scenes and see how they get on.
Yeah, I see. I think everybody kind of is in the same general consensus that there's the untouchables. Mihai is asking in the chat, do we need any other homegrown if Gomez leaves, or do Bradley and Kwanzaa help us in that regard? Both Bradley and Kwanzaa are homegrown talents. They've come through the academy, so they'll be classified as homegrown. However, I don't think they'll be classified as homegrown until they've played 2 years in the Premier League. They're just classified as nothing at the moment. They become homegrown then and fill that quota in, I think, by the end of next season, because they've been in the Premier League 2 years at that point. It's something about the years of service, but they don't qualify as anything up until that point, or unless you've purchased them in at a senior level from an outside of England club, or outside of the UK club. I don't know if they include Scotland and Welsh. Well, I suppose Welsh teams, Cardiff and Swansea, are already in the Premier League, but the Scottish Premier League as well. We then are now going to move on to the midfield. So with the midfield, there's obviously some contention about certain players. Myself and Carter had a back and forth earlier on about a particular Spaniard in the squad that I think should be fired from the squad with a cannon. One of the questions I do want to address is from Paul is, we've so much depth in midfield. How about having Stefan Bajcetic as cover at centre-back? If he can be a hybrid centre-back, centre defensive midfielder, we can move Gomez for 40 million. You're already moving somebody that can cover many positions for depth. He can cover all across the back four. I think that's invaluable, first of all. And Stefan Bajcetic is already coming back from a year being out due to stress injuries, so to speak, and growing pains. I think throwing him in at two very physically demanding positions might scupper him completely, and it might actually set him back, myself, Paul, to be perfectly honest. I don't disagree with your train of thought, but I think that sort of style, I think you're cutting yourself out at the knees there by moving somebody who can play in the midfield to the back line, when you can just as easily just sign a defender to cover that position anyway, and then you still get to keep your depth solely in the midfield. But all depends on the new manager and what he'd like to do. If he wants to have a centre back that can then move into midfield, he has done that with both Feyenoord and with AZ Alkmaar, so it wouldn't necessarily be out of the realm of possibility. But Kings, I'll move on to yourself with the midfielders first. So we have Endo, Thiago, Szoboszlai, McAllister, Jones, Harvey Elliott, Ryan Gravenberch, Stefan Bajcetic, and then you have some of the youngsters such as James McConnell, you have Bobby Clark, and then you have others as well. I'm trying to think of anybody else that I'm missing there. Who else am I thinking of? Fabio Carvalho as well. He's classified technically as a midfielder. So out of that list of them, and if there's any more you can think of off the top of your head, let me know. But from that list itself, who are you keeping, selling, and loaning?
Right, Bajcetic or whatever you pronounce his name, I'm not sure, but he's got to be given a chance. I think if he's just coming back now, he's on the bench. He's obviously played in reserves this week, and they've got high hopes for him, or Klopp did especially. And I think overall the club have. So to me, they've got to nurture that and see, is he as good as what they think he's going to be? Because potentially he could be that defensive, maybe that number 6 that we've been crying out for. Yes, he is young, but if he's that good and he can sit there and grow in that role, then he could be here for 10 years playing it and make it look easy, I suppose, if he's that good. Maybe Carter won't agree, but Thiago out on his ass, to be honest. He's just not playing. It's not his fault that he's got injured, and it's been a very long-term injury. And I love the guy. When he first came, I was so excited. He's got so much talent. He's got more talent probably in 1 foot than half the footballers in the Premier League have got in both feet and a head. But it's just not. It's not worked out in the long term because he's injured so much. He's got to go. Szoboszlai, I think, needs another season. I think he's had flashes of great games, and then he's gone off the boil a little bit, and I think he's been in and out. And I do think that if he's given another chance, I think he'll get more, I suppose, steady with it all and find his feet better. McAllister, can't really knock him, to be honest. He's been moved around midfield. and he's done well pretty much, at 6 or an 8 or whatever he's been asked to play, to be honest. And you can't really fault him. I think overall he's been a fantastic signing. So I'd definitely keep Endo. I do think a lot of the Premier League looked at us at first when he come in and were a bit like, what are you doing? What are you buying him for? And I think most of our fans were the same. And I was one of them, just going, well, I've never even heard of him. Is he any good? Etc. And at points, he's proved that he can do it. He can cut it. He does, again, he's come into this vastly different from the German leagues. So it does take you time to completely get a feel for it. And he's had flashes of really good games, and then some of them he's been overawed maybe. But again, I think keep as, even if he ends up being more of a backup player, a bit like Milner was in the end, very experienced, but just older, so he's not going to play every game, but he can come in and do a job for you when you need it. You've got Jones, homegrown talent. Yes, is he good enough? I don't know. To me personally, I find him more of a squad player. That's just a personal opinion. He's not my first choice every single game to be in there. But he is a very good squad player, to be honest. So you keep him. Gravenberch, again, flashes of what he can do. Sometimes he turns it on and you think, I can see why we've got him. And other times, not quite there. But they're young as well. Same as Elliott. Elliott's now getting a run of games on the right, and you can see why the club wanted him. And he's still, again, they're young. So they've got time to develop even more. And you think to yourself, well, do we give them that chance? The other youngsters, you said Bobby Clark was one of them. Again, he's shown when he's come on that when we had that run when we were playing quite a lot of youngsters all of a sudden, it's like they did come in and did very, very well for Liverpool. And I'm glad that even though Klopp's leaving, he's blooded quite a lot of youngsters for the next manager coming along to at least they've had some experience. They know what it's about now. Playing at Anfield is one thing. Playing continuously in the Premier League is a completely different ballgame as well. And it's like, well, he's given them the experience now that hopefully the manager can capitalise on and say, right, they can all be part of this squad. And yes, I can start blooding them more and more. So I do think overall, Thiago, there's not many I'd actually get rid of. Most of them I'd keep there or thereabouts. And just some of the youngsters, again, maybe loan out to championship sides. But pretty bright, I think, overall. But some need a good run of games to really find their feet again.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Looking at just some of the comments that are coming in here, obviously, we've Emily Roberts mentioning signing Gertruida, a centre back that can go right back, and Hanko, a centre back who can go left back, and then sign Viffer and try to get Frankie de Jong at Barca as they need money. I'm going to disagree with you on every single one of them, including Somerville, unfortunately. And the reasons are not because they're not good players, but Feyenoord aren't going to let their manager go to us, and then their 3 best players as well at the same time. We might get one, and that's Gertrudia, and that might be the only one. I'd love myself Mats Viffer. He's a phenomenal CDM. Somerville, I don't like him. That's just my own personal preference. I think he's a championship player. He'll do wonders in the championship. Reminds me an awful lot of Harry Wilson. Just bangs numbers in the championship and doesn't do an awful lot in the Premier League. Was very underwhelming with Leeds 2 years ago. I would not touch Frankie de Jong with a 10-foot barge pole. His leg is currently in 3 pieces, and he is going to be 28 by the time he's going to play football again. He's going to be out for 12 months minimum. I don't know if you've seen the injury, Emily, or not, but his leg was quite literally his foot was at a 90-degree angle to his shin. He's not coming back from that anytime soon. So his value has just tanked massively, and he's not looking to sign a new renewal with Barcelona. So, and he may end up leaving on a free in 2026 because I can't, or 2025. I don't know if it's 2026 or 2025 his deal runs out, but I think he's 2 or 3 years left in it, and his value is completely tanked. We then have Paul mentioning about Carvalho and Tyler Morton can be sold. I think they're doing quite well for Hull at the moment. I think Carvalho is doing very, very well for Hull as a centre attacking midfielder. I think if we play a 4-2-3-1, he could very easily fill in as depth there, as we have the likes of Szoboszlai, Elliott, McAllister that can all play there. Depth is never a bad thing, in my opinion. Tyler Morton as well is playing as a centre defensive midfielder for them at the moment, or a defensive midfielder for them at the moment. That's a place of need at the moment. I don't see why we wouldn't keep depth there myself. And then Emily mentioned about her defenders of Hancock, Gertruda, Virgil van Dijk, Konate, Kwanzaa, Robbo, Gomez, Simicas, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and Bradley. I mean, I get your thinking on it, but you're trying to get 2 players out of Feyenoord after also robbing their manager. I think we'll maybe get one. I don't think we'll get multiple of them. Something that'll make Carter happy. Thiago can stay on as a midfield coach. I wouldn't be against that as long as he's not getting paid 200 grand a week to be a midfield coach. Paul, at the moment, I'd say it's much of a muchness, to be perfectly honest, from what I've seen. There's no differentiating factor between them at the moment. Morton is just getting more game time, albeit at a lower level. However, when McConnell has come in, he has looked boss as well. But it remains to be seen whether or not they can both do it on a consistent level in the Premier League, which is a way that it could be viewed at over the summer and into the pre-season and early parts of the season before anybody's sent out on loan again. But Carter, I'll come to you in the midfield, because obviously you have your favourite midfielder in there that myself and yourself had a back and forth on. And I get where you're coming from. On his day, he can be the best midfielder in the world. However, on his day is once in a blue moon, sadly, just purely from injuries. And that's purely why I don't want to keep him. He's missed 127 games since joining us. But look, we've had our hash out over that, and we won't get into it here because there's no point, because we could be here debating it for hours. But the midfielders, as we mentioned, who are you keeping, who are you selling, and who are you loaning out? We've mentioned them all so far.
So Thiago, I would keep for maybe a year on heavily reduced terms. Still the best midfielder. Have not replaced him in the build-up whatsoever. In the build-up, McAllister's not fit to tie his boots. I'm going to be honest, in my opinion. I think Endo I'd keep for a year or 2. I think, as sort of Kings alluded to, it's good to have a bit of experience to be able to drop in there. We've got a very young midfield. Like, everyone's like 22. I think McConnell, loan and probably sell. I think Bobby Clark, loan and sell. Morton, sell, 2 lightweight. Carvalho, sell, 2 lightweight. Not better than, in the 10 position, not better than Jones, Soboslai, Salah, Elliott, McAllister. As the previous comment, we want Frankie de Jong. Why do you want Frankie de Jong when you got Bajcetic, who I think is definitely got the highest ceiling out of every midfielder? I think he's so talented. I think as long as his injury issues don't persist, I think next season he's going to put real pressure on whoever's playing as the left-sided 8. I think he's going to give the manager a real headache. I think he could definitely push McAllister for the start. I think physically offers so much more, and technically he's not far behind. I'd keep Jones 100%. I think Jones is like your 4th or 5th midfielder. He can kind of cover all positions to a level. He's athletic. He doesn't give the ball away. He presses great. He can go and get you goals. And I think people are hating on him whilst the whole team's doing badly. I think he was one of the main reasons that we were very good at the start of the season. I think he was terrific. I would say McAllister I keep for like 2-3 more years, and I'd look to ship him on. Soboslai I think you have to keep. And Harvey Elliott I think you have to keep. I think once we maybe get a better DM in, and I think you have a more physical other number 8, I think you can play Elliott a lot. I think Elliott and McAllister can't coexist. It's too small. It's too easy to play against. And I think, who's the last person? Soboslai, Harvey Elliott. Gravenberch, I definitely keep. I think we've seen his sort of ceiling a little bit. I think we've seen how good he can be, how physically good he's been. I think he looked good against City, which is a very good litmus test. I think I'd definitely keep him for 2 or 3 more seasons, unless Slot just looks at him and goes, he's not for me. Because I think it was Nagelsmann. Nagelsmann really did not like his defensive work rate at Bayern, and that was a big reason why he didn't play. And if Slot feels like maybe mentally he's not going to work hard, then I think get rid of him. But I think if he's happy with his sort of mentality and stuff, I think Gravenberch has looked really promising, so I keep him.
Yeah, I think with Gravenberch, I think it was the fact that maybe him and Nagelsmann just didn't get on. And I just think it was probably spoiled from the start, because if you've watched him play, I think his work rate is second to none. And I think all it takes is just a bit of encouragement. And he's a 21-year-old kid who's just come to a team that now kind of welcomed him as a family, so to speak, from what it looked like, because Bayern just look very toxic at the moment, from manager to players to everything right now.
And he's only 9 months older than Harvey Elliott, and we all look at Harvey Elliott as a super young player, and Gravenberch doesn't get that kind of grace.
Harvey Elliott's also had 100 appearances for Liverpool so far, and Gravenberch is only 9 months older than him, and we view Harvey Elliott as a baby. So I think it's the fact that just maybe Gravenberch looks older. He looks like an old man. But like, okay, Emily, now I know you're absolutely pulling the piss. No, you don't. You don't touch Virgil van Dijk. That's something you don't touch. And sure, Paul, isn't that the best £800 per minute that you've ever spent for a player, for Thiago? You just love to see it. And look, Carter, I get your argument about him, and anybody that wants to argue me on it, that's fine and all well and good. But it's just one of them things that availability is the best ability to me. And if he's not available, he can't produce on the pitch. And I'd rather get somebody that can produce half as much, twice as more, and then you have him recreated in the aggregate. That's the way that I look at it. If he was available consistently, no problem. Keep him, re-sign him, new deal. But he lasted all of 10 minutes, and then immediately the day after we found out he's another injury and he's out for probably the season. We were all like, for fuck's sake. But that is just the way that I look at it. Race, same question to yourself on the midfielders. I'll run through them again if needs be. So we have your Harvey Elliott, Ryan Gravenberch, Stefan Bajcetic, Curtis Jones, Alexi McAllister, Dominic Szoboszlai, Thiago Alcantara, Wataru Endo, and you obviously have the likes of James McConnell, you have Bobby Clark, and then you have Fabio Carvalho and Tyler Morton as well as options that you could go with. So keep, loan, sell. What's your decisions?
Well, I mean, we bought a bunch of midfielders last season, so I don't think there's any reason to move on from them after 1 year. I think that would be just an irresponsible thing to do. So Gravenberch, McAllister, obviously, Endo, and Szoboszlai, they're obviously all staying. Just interesting to see how they'll look in a new team and a new formation, and that, especially that number 10 role that we think, in a 4-2-3-1. I mean, that's exciting. I think for Szoboszlai, especially, I think that could be a really great spot for him to thrive in. Maybe not focus so much on the defensive duty and just kind of focus on looking ahead, bombing shots forward and whatnot. And even McAllister too can play in that spot as well. I'm with you guys on Bajcetic as well. I think he's an incredible player. I think he could be our number 6 of the future. I know he can play as a number 8 as well, but I think he's more than capable as a 6. That's what he kind of first came up through with our team. And throughout this kind of his long injury layoff, it seems like he's bulked up as well. He's growing as well. I mean, he's a young lad as well. So hopefully he can fill in the frame a little more as a number 6. I think he can personally play in that position. Either way, he still has a spot in our team. Harvey Elliott too. I'm a big fan of his. I'm skeptical every time he goes out on the right wing, but he can play that in a pinch. But I think as a midfielder, he can excel. It just depends on who the other midfielders are with him, because I agree that you can't have him, maybe Andy McAllister, and there's a lot of limitations when those guys are together. So I think again, he's another player in that number 10 role. I think would really excel. So you talk about this number 10 role, we got so many options possibly for that. And then Thiago, get rid of him. He doesn't play. He doesn't play. That's simple. He doesn't play. I don't care how good he is. He doesn't play. He's Naby Keita 2.0. He can't play. That's straight up what it is. I mean, it's unfortunate for him. I was never one that considered like, oh man, we're getting Thiago back. I can't wait. I was never like, oh, like cool. He's gonna play for a few minutes and then he's gonna. I mean, could he really play a full 90 ever again? Like, I don't know if he can. Like, that's just not the player he is. So, unfortunately, his time has come. He had the one good, really strong season for us, and that's kind of it. So, and that's what you get when you spend money on an older player, a more veteran player, right? I mean, you don't expect him to be necessarily the most fit, and so I don't know. I'm just sick of the Thiago talk. Like he's gone. He doesn't have a role with this club anymore. Curtis Jones, definitely keep him around. I really like him. You maybe think, when you think back to not this season, but the last season, part of our midfield struggles was, Curtis Jones wasn't really playing that well. He was injured a lot too. And so we brought in this new midfield to kind of maybe push aside Curtis Jones a little, but he's actually, at parts of the season was really good. And so I think I think he was one of the players to really benefit from the increased competition that we had this season. I think he took his game up a level and has proven that he should be kept around and can be a key player. And again, another young player as well. So more room to grow. So definitely keep him around. Who else am I looking at here? Endo. Yeah, definitely keeping around Endo. I think he's always going to be kind of a short-term solution. When looking at this season, we just kind of needed someone to fill that number 6. If the club doesn't see, by Tredic or maybe Tyler Morton as a 6 of the future, I could see us going and now investing in that number 6 position this summer. And still keeping Endo around because he's a valuable player to have, a good backup. He's kind of an Iron Man, right? He's always available. I don't think it was only until he played 120 minutes in a game where he finally picked up some sort of knocker injury. He's a warrior out there, and he's really impressed all of us this season that he is a Premier League player and can perform at a high level when needed. So, really encouraging to see him. Gravenberch, I think, and again, you guys talked about how young he is, and he's a really promising prospect. Well, a big guy as well. We kind of need a bigger midfield too, with the likes of, we got McAllister and Elliott and Carvalho as well. We need a more beef in our midfield too. So it's good to have him around. And then Carvalho, I'd still keep him. I would try to give him a run in the preseason. If you want to loan him out again, I think that's an acceptable solution. But then again, if there's a scenario where you just don't see any plans for him, because if you see him as that number 10, but we already have a bunch of options there, it might be tough for him to get in. And we only spent, the investment wasn't too much on him. So if we wanted to, cut our losses there, that's not a big deal. I don't think there'll be any ill will about that. And Tyler Morton, I would definitely keep him around and maybe I'd look to loan him again. I think he's I think he definitely, you have a player there. I think he could, it's not warrant just like letting him go, try, if you can loan him out, that'd be great. And then same goes with Bobby Clark and McConnell. All credit to them for filling in when we needed them to this season. And, especially in that League Cup, just to see them, look comfortable out there was good. So I think this would then be the season to loan them out and give them their first kind of batch of regular first team football, not in an academy setting, right? Going out to, a championship side or something. I think that's kind of the next step in their development. And then you look at, and then a season on from now, then you can say, oh, we got this guy coming back. What do we think of McConnell and whatnot, and options for them. So there's a lot of keeping around. Like I said, we bought a bunch of midfielders last season, and it's a younger group as well. So there's not really a lot of reason to move off these players other than some crowding issues with some of the younger guys. Like I mentioned, I guess Carvalho would be my strongest sell here because of just the amount of options that we do have in midfield. And it seems like, we bought him, but like, I don't know what the plan really was for him, because he's kind of the same as Harviel. He's kind of a tweener between a winger and a midfielder, but we haven't really seen the output from him, where Harviel has proven himself on the field. Carvalho is, he might just be a championship player, right? Who's kind of bouncing around, and do we have the right system for him to thrive in? And now that we do have that right system, do we have other players for it instead? So it's unfortunate for him, making that move as a young player to a big club and then just not having a role. So hopefully that can get sorted. But I just unfortunately don't see too much of a future for Carvalho with us. But most, by and large, pretty much everyone's kind of sticking around.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that either. Like you can make arguments for any one of them, but there's really, I think, as Kings mentioned earlier, the main guys pick themselves, and then it's kind of a debate. Then after that point, there's usually a number in each position that you're like, yeah, sound, no problem, no arguments there. Everybody's kind of in agreement there. And then you have your Carvalhos, your Jones, your Tyler Mortons, your McConnells and whatnot, and who would be excuse me. I just seen a comment in the thing there. My God, that nearly made me choke. Paul, Bruno Fernandes will be available. Man U planning a squad clear out. Wouldn't touch him if you paid me. Not if you paid me. Fantastically talented football player when he wants to be, but as the same argument that I've made with Carter over Marcus Rashford, his attitude, and he's just a locker room cancer. He's a team cancer. He's just, we all called it at the start of the season that him being named Man United captain, was probably the worst decision of their season, and it turned out to be true. Fair enough, he gets some goals, he gets some assists, but we have seen time and time again when the chips are down, he's not the guy to lead you through a storm, and he's the guy to bow out to it, unfortunately. But that is that. Paul then giving me heart palpitations that Henderson is willing to return as a bench player on reduced wages. He doesn't like the food in Amsterdam. Well, you made your bed, lie in it. pretty simple. I think everybody's in agreement on that Jordan Henderson can take a long walk off a short pier. And you can disagree with me on that all you want. I'd fight any man that says different. But we will move on to the forwards now before we finish up. Kings, I'll come to yourself first. We have Luis Diaz, Darwin Nunez, Mohamed Salah, Cody Gakpo, and Diogo Jota and Ben Doak. A little bit thinner here than in the midfield, but still some very top quality players here. And some divisive players like Darwin Nunez and Cody Gakpo, Luis Diaz, as well as Diogo Jota. So out of those names that I've listed there, who do you think even selling or loaning?
When I was on last week with Damon on Thursday, we got on the same subject of Nunez. Did we let him go? And I said, and I'll say the same thing again now. I think Carter was on then. And I said, obviously with a new manager coming in, you don't know what a little tweak to his game could do. We could make him really bad, which we mourn now he can't hit a barn door sometimes, but he could be worse. But he could also be fantastic, just with a small tweak or a slight different bit of coaching. And it's not knocking Klopp, obviously. He's amazing. But it's now come to the end of his tenure and someone else is taking over. So we've got to get used to that fact. And a different manager will have a different way of thinking for the whole team. So all this analysis tonight is kind of like, well, there's ifs, buts, and maybes all the way through this team. And I'd give Nunez another 12 months, personally, and just see how he goes. Might surprise a few people, I don't know. Salah, I'd say maybe his time's up. And that's really hard for me to say because he's been such a phenomenal player for Liverpool. It's been a joy to watch him. But the last few months, and it's not really anything to do with that spat that he had on the touchline the other day. It's just, I think that's just frustration. Everything's just gone pear-shaped in the last couple of months for everybody. And he's not getting as much time. But I don't know, after his injury, is he the same? Is he going to be maybe just like Rob, I suppose? He could have a really good pre-season and be fantastic next season again and surprise us. But I don't know if Edwards and Hughes are going to sit down and go, right, here's a new contract. And if they do, they're probably going to say 12 months. Will he take it? And I don't think there's any way on this earth that Edwards is going to let him go into the last year and let it run down. He's going to be like, listen, if you're not signing something, you're off, mate. I'm going to get something for you. So I'll say it. Salah probably is going to go. Nunez to stay. Gakpo is going to stay. Diaz, I do like him. But I think between him and his dad, I think he's angling for a move to Barcelona or something like that. And it's kind of like, listen, if you really want that, just go, mate. A bit like Coutinho. The grass isn't always greener, as we were just saying about Henderson. You go, mate. You see, not every time that you leave Liverpool is a step up. It's like, it can come and bite you on the ass. Coutinho's just tarted himself around the different teams since. And, I mean, okay, it does work. Sometimes look at Suarez. He went there and he played with Messi and he had a fantastic relationship on the field with him and won trophies, but it doesn't always work out that the grass is greener, pardon the pun, on a football pitch. But Diaz can go. Jota, being injured, I really like Jota, to be fair, and I would definitely keep. I think he's one of our most natural finishers at the club. He's got such a good eye for goal that he literally runs at you and you think he's going to score probably, and most of the time he does when he gets the chance. It's just that he's normally a bench player, or if he does start, he doesn't seem to last 90 minutes. I will say that about him, but I do like him. I think he's a natural finisher. And did we say Elliott as well, did we? And then Ben Doak, did we say? Right, Ben Doak, I think needs to go out on loan. There was a lot of, I think, Matty, he was on quite often. I think he's on tomorrow. He watches the reserves quite a lot and said, we've got a lot of talent coming through. And I think Ben Doak's one of them. But is he ready yet? No, not quite. League One, Upper League One, or maybe mid-championship side, I think would really test him and see, has he got what it takes? And then come back with more experience after a lot more games, possibly a full season. So that's what I do with him. Elliott, as we've said, he's young. He's played over 100 games already, and it's like, he'll give everything for this club. Because I know the age-old thing is when he signed, he was like, I had Liverpool posters on my wall. And people are like, you don't even come from Liverpool, mate, but he was like, I'm a boyhood Liverpool fan, and I think he's proved it, to be fair to him. He'll give everything for this club. He runs his heart out. I noticed, I've said it a couple of times on the streams, when we played in the Carabao Cup final, you give that much, even when we scored that last minute, everybody's like dancing around. He was just flat out on his back in the middle of the area, just kind of like, I can't give any more, I've give it all, and it's like, fair play to him. So 2, I would think. Salah can go. Diaz, I'm not bothered if he goes. The other's going to stay, apart from loaning out Dope. So, yeah, pretty simple, I think.
No, I can't disagree with that. The only reason I would see, I don't think Barca have the money for him. I think he'll end up going to PSG, and they have lots of money, so we could very easily get a nice fee from there. And we only brought him in for about £30 million. We could very easily sell him for double that, quite easily. With the Salah thing, for me, it's about effort. I don't care if you drop a stinker. I don't care if you miss a wide open goal. I really don't. It will annoy me 100%. But one thing, you can fake an injury, you can fake an attempted shot or a cross or anything. You can fake a lot of things, but you can't fake effort, and that is so obvious to see when you have millions of eyes watching you and tens of thousands of eyes watching you in the stadium itself as well. This is why people question why I love Nunez. He never stops. He just doesn't stop. He will take 10 shots, miss all 10, and his effort and drive and tenacity to get that 11th will not drop. And eventually it clicks. And it clicked this season. With Nunez, it's a number of contention. And obviously I see everybody saying sell Nunez in the chat and a lot of people saying it. But Nunez's minutes have accounted to about 59 total full games. We'll round it up to 60. He's 50 goal contributions in those 60 games. Like, what more do you want from a striker to have 50 goal contributions in 60 full games? I think it's 0.8 goal contribute, a goal or a 0.8 goals or assists every game. It is as simple as that. And realistically, I don't see how you can ask more of a striker in their first 2 seasons. Sadio Mane has the same amount of goals as Darwin Nunez has in their first 33 games as a Liverpool player. We've seen how well he kicked on. Writing a player off after 2 seasons when the first season had no midfield behind him, the second season he has a midfield behind him, and then he kicks on and nearly doubles his goal contribution tally. Like, it is what it is. And look, you can say no one cares about the stats. Well, so no one cares about the stats in game. That comes with training. That sentence doesn't even make sense. It doesn't. And he's not pure rubbish. You can say, why did we ultimately sign him on a player that keeps missing? He doesn't keep missing. He has a better goal scoring record or a goal scoring percentage than Erling Haaland this season. Erling Haaland has missed more big chances in the Premier League than Darwin Nunez. And Erling Haaland has just maybe about 5 more goal contributions than Darwin Nunez in about 500 more minutes than Darwin Nunez. So it is as simple as that. Well, isn't it a good thing that you're not involved in the team? Because that's just a terrible attitude to have. And Nunez didn't cost us the league, conceding first on 27 different occasions cost us the league. That's very, very simple, that. And everybody can go at Nunez. He's the easy target. If Nunez has no fans, that means I'm dead. It is that simple. So if you don't like it, go support a different team. That's all I'd say. You back your players, and that's the end of it. If they give effort, you back them, and that'll be it. Carter, with the forwards, Diaz, Nunez, Salah, Gakpo, Ben Doak. You then also could factor in as well Jadon Dans, Kumas as well, who's played a little bit for us too. Of those names, who would you keep loan or sell out of those?
I think Ben Doak go on loan. As sort of King said, I think he's got a load of potential and he looks really dangerous. And I think going to the Championship is never a bad thing. I think a lot of sort of the highlights you see in there, sometimes if you just shoot, the ball genuinely can just go in. Like some of the shots and the goals that go in, the goalkeeping is a bit dreadful. So I think for him and sort of Dan's to go down there, build up a bit of confidence and just sort of get a bit of momentum going, I think would be good. I don't know if Kumas is ready for that level, but I'm not really able to comment on him. Haven't seen enough of him. I think Luis Diaz, for me, I'd let him go. I think he's older than Nunez. He's like -3 on his XG. He doesn't create that many chances, and his dribble numbers actually aren't that high. I think they're the highest in the squad, but compared to a lot of guys like Kudus and all those type of guys, it's a lot lower. It's a lot lower since when he had the first big injury. I would move him on. I'd move him on for decent money. I think there's a lot of players that are a lot better than him. I think, and you don't like Somerville. I think Somerville probably gets as many goals and assists as him. I don't think there's much difference. Maybe a bit of physicality. I think Gakpo, people disagree. I think he's a striker. I think he's good cover for Nunez. I think he offers you something different. I think Salah, you keep. I think if we just play him closer to the goal, he'll still score a load of goals. We've kind of done the opposite of what happened to Ronaldo, where he went from left wing into the middle. We've now taken Salah from being an inside forward to a touchline winger. And I think that's just the opposite of what you do with an older sort of attacker. And then I think Nunez, as you guys sort of said, I think the best way to look at it, and people say, well, there was all those articles about, oh, he was a Klopp signing, not a analytics signing. And it was like the clip from Moneyball when he's like, but he gets on base. And like, he gets on base. Nunez takes barely any touches in the game. He takes, I think for most of the season, he took the most shots in Europe, and he has like the highest expected goals per game. If you can do that on a guy who takes 20 touches a game, that's much better than Luis Diaz, who takes 100. Nunez gets you chances, and I think I'm not going to judge anyone on this last run of the season. I think everyone's been bad. I think no one's actually been that impressive. Obviously, there's been good cameos, but I think Nunez has shown you no matter what, he will get chances. Like, he's going to get so many chances, and I don't see a world in which they get rid of him. I think people forget this is his 4th year in top flight football. 2 of them were in Portugal, and I think we've all seen the highlights where there's like 2 stands in the stadium for some of the Portuguese games. Like, you can see the car park, you can see cars and stuff. Like, some of these players aren't high quality. This is his only 2nd proper year playing top flight football. He's getting used to it. And I think he's just the type of player where he's always going to take a load of shots. He might not be super clinical, but he's going to get enough chances to score a goal. So I just wouldn't get rid of him.
No, I can't disagree with you. I think as I said, his minutes amount to 59 total starts, 59 total 90-minute games, and he has 50 goal contributions in that. I mean, and when Salah was out, he was the main man. Salah missed about 7 or 8 weeks in the middle of the season. All of a sudden, Darwin Nunez is scoring a goal a game, and throwing 2 assists on top of it as well. So a lot of people have very short memories. Isak from Newcastle, I wouldn't touch him. 2 injury prone, 1 season wonder. He done it once in the Liga and then dropped a stinker the second he landed to the Premier League. He may end up dropping a stinker next season. It's not consistent enough for myself. And you might argue that Darwin Nunez is a similar situation where he kind of flew off the handle at Benfica, then came to us, but he still got as many as Isak nearly has this season, last season. So I'm not going to even entertain that argument. But Race, I'll come to you finally on this before we finish up of the forwards. We obviously then have where is it? Paul asking the question. Where is it? Rating them on 1st to 3rd, Kumas, Doak, and Dans, and then obviously you have here as well, Paul mentioning the current managers, the new managers, Arne Slot's striker in Santiago Jimenez, who has 21 goals in 29 games, and he's a very similar physical build to Nunez. He's a big physical presence up front, and the way that Arne Slot does his attacking is by crosses and cutbacks straight into the 6-yard box and gets as many people into the box that you can. And we've seen Darwin Nunez is good in the air, and from 6 yards out, the goal is big enough that he can't miss. So that's the way that I look at it. Race, those forwards, Darwin Nunez, Cody Gakpo, Mohamed Salah, Ben Doak, Luis Diaz. Then you obviously have Dans, you have Kumas as well that are on top of that. So out of those guys, who would you keep, loan, or sell?
Well, I think all the young guys, Doak, Dans, Kumas, I think you look for loan opportunities for them. No reason to get rid of him, shove him out the door. Specifically Doak. I mean, especially we're going to be in the Champions League next season. So are you comfortable throwing Doak out in those Champions League games? I would reckon no. I think you'd want a more proven talent. The only reason we were excited about him this season because we're in the Europa League. Oh, we can throw him in the Europa League, no problem. And then unfortunately he had his injury. So disappointing, but still, I think a really bright talent. So you can hopefully you can loan him out somewhere and get some regular football. But as it comes for Salah, Nunez, Jota, Gakpo, and Diaz, this is just my not kind of a projection, but just what I would do. I'd keep them all, to be honest. Now you could obviously say that you can, Salah and Diaz. I think there's an argument to be made about Diaz. You heard the murmurs of him maybe wanting to leave, and some rumors out there. Is that something he's really looking at as next step? You always worry about a player that's got his head in another space, like with Coutinho. I mean, it's you want to manage that well. And then Salah, as he's mentioned, Stephen, I mean, his form has definitely dipped, and is the effort there? Are we overreacting to just kind of a bad run of form, or is this kind of a trend that's happening? Are you, I'm somewhat of the belief of, form is temporary, class is permanent. I think there is still a really strong, case to be made that Salah needs to stick around. I mean, he is our best goal scorer that we have, even though he hasn't, shown it in recent weeks. You definitely want to keep him around, and just filling that void would be so tough. I think, even if we are, moving towards a system of featuring more Nunez and more Gakpo, through the center and whatnot. I would still try to keep them all. I think they all still have, a lot of production left in them. Nunez, I'm with you guys. It's too early to quit on him. We invested so much money on him. And you look at the goal scoring output, or the goal, contribution outlet, and, just his relentless energy and just knack for getting big chances. Again, it's with big chances. Like, yes, he misses a lot, but he gets a lot as well. There's two sides of the coin there. So you need to recognize that part as well. Yes, he obviously needs to improve on his finishing, and he needs to definitely get better. And it's the second season in a row where, at the end of the season, he's kind of struggling and kind of dips in form. So that's something he needs to work on. But again, he's still a relatively young player and still has room to grow. So, yeah, I'm excited to see, keep him around. Gakpo as well. I think, he's caught a lot of stick lately because he's in bad form. Again, the whole team's been bad in form. So everyone's kind of out on players and, sell them off, do whatever. It's all overreactions, I feel. Gakpo is definitely a quality player. I think can play through the center and as a left winger as well at times. I think, he was struggling, so we kind of put him out on that left wing a little bit, and he was able to kind of do some different things, and that can be a way to get a player back in form as well. So that's a good option to have, and again, a versatile option as well. Jota, I know his injury record isn't great, but when he is in the team, and look, he's not our featured striker a lot, right? We have Nunez, we have other players that kind of play above him, but he's a tremendous player to have in your squad, and we talk about, you can count on him for getting a goal, off the bench in a crucial moment, whatever. I mean, he is just, I think he's one of the best, coming off the bench and just, creating chaos and, just getting a foot in. And he's a great finisher as well. Finish right foot, left foot, and with his head. He's an all around great finisher. So definitely keep him around. Diaz, I like what he does in the wing. You definitely want more. I think you want a more goal scoring output, and it's hard for him because he's coming after. We just had Sadio Mane, and we saw what a great goal scorer Mane was, and Diaz really hasn't replicated that. Of course, he had the long term injury, last season. I still think that there's definitely a player there, but if his head is somewhere else, and you will get a fee for him, he will definitely command a fee, especially what we invested in him. You could convince someone easily, drive that price up. So, yeah, there's all about assessments. What do you want to do with the player if you're interested in someone else? But I would try to keep, everyone. But if there is a scenario where you are getting a fee for Diaz, or if Salah's, if he's thinking about his next move, although it was reported that we are going to keep him for another season by David Ornstein, so that looks like he's going to stay, which I'm happy to see. Give him a chance with the new manager and just, try and work that out. Salah's a professional. He, the little dust up he had, at West Ham, I think if you guys saw like the second clip, there was kind of a little more of a, I don't want to say justification for it, but you kind of understood what the argument was, a little more context behind it. So, I think that kind of lessened what we thought of it. And look, the team's just in a bad, it's just not a good feeling right now because we're missing out on the league. It's Klopp's farewell. It's just not good vibes right now. So everything that's negative is going to be heightened by 100. So see the Salah stuff. I mean, I don't want to overreact to it, too much. So definitely keeping Salah around. And then Diaz, I want to keep him around too. I think I'm a big fan of his, and really all of our attacking options I'm a fan of. I'm down with keeping it the same. You give it another year, and the new manager, give him what's his plans going to be. Is he going to use this player more? Is he going to shove this player to the bench more? And then next season you can assess, okay, which players don't fit my style, which players are we going to let go? Because it's a dream for a manager to come in and have all these attacking options, right? I mean, he's got to be like, man, I got Gakpo, Diaz, Jota, Salah, ooh, this is awesome, So I don't think he's going to be too picky, and I don't think this player is going to fit me. Try to work with it. So again, it's tough to project, what our transfer plans are going to be this summer, and who the manager likes and if it's his play style. But by and large, I think keeping these guys around right now, I think would be good.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you that there. Tony here mentioning that FSG will get as much as possible for Salah. Don't believe the spin. Tony, I agree and disagree with you. The reason I disagree with you is purely just because if he wants to stay, he'll sign a new deal on reduced fees. If he doesn't want to stay, he'll be sold, and he doesn't sign that, as Kings mentioned, he'll be told jog on and he'll be sold. It's as simple as that. We won't let him go for nothing. It'll be quite simply, here's your new deal. You're on reduced wages. You're currently earning 18.5 million a year. Pay him the Thiago fee. Pay him 10 million a year, and leave it at that. And if he says no to that, bye. Saudi Arabia. What are you going to pay for him? That kind of a way. But that's my own opinion on it. And as people mentioned, we need to be ruthless. But that is where we're going to leave it today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe, and make sure you have your notification bell on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out. Thank you guys so much for joining us this evening. And thank you so much for listening to our ramblings about our players and who we want to keep. So from myself, Carter, Kings, and Race, thank you guys so much for joining us on this Tuesday evening. We hope everybody has a wonderful evening or the rest of your day, wherever you are, and we'll see you again tomorrow at 7:30. Bye-bye.